Welcome back, everyone. Maximum Effort. It looks like we're getting the Deadpool core during Deadpool 3, so we'll break it all down. There are going to be a ton of different cameos in the movie as part of the Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel Universe storyline. Like Wolverine, the X-Men are just part of it. Like it's just the beginning. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes because it is only going to get crazier and crazier. The movie will be a little bit more like what people expected from Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness when they announced it was going to be a big multiverse movie, bunch of X-Men stuff happening during it. There have been a couple reports recently this past week about which members of the Deadpool Corps will be in the movie because it's a lot like the Spider-Force from the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie or Beyond the Spider-Verse, or the Thor Corps from Secret Wars, the Council of Kangs, the Council of Reeds. Basically a multiverse team-up made up of a bunch of different versions of Deadpool from alternate universes. Early on, when they started revealing footage and details from Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, his yellow suit from the comics, the 838 universe, the X-Men coming back, they started posting footage of them on the Void Planet from the Loki series. I assumed there would be more Easter eggs and references they borrow from Loki, and they also did a giant team-up like this of multiverse Lokis led by President Loki during that.
Why the hell is there an alligator in here?
He's a Loki!
Not expecting to see alligator Deadpool or anything like that, but they will have crazy versions of Deadpool. The difference with what they did on the Loki series, though, is that all the different Lokis were meant to be so self-interested and backstabbing that they weren't really a team so much. Everyone betrayed each other at the drop of a hat. Till alligator Loki bit his hand off, and the new main Loki, the others, escaped from the bunker. So after doing something as crazy as that, it makes sense they try something similar with Deadpool, because Deadpool is supposed to be even more ridiculous than Loki. They just make a bunch of the versions of Deadpool way crazier. There was even a rumor early on that they'd do a version of Galactapool, like a version of Deadpool that became Galactus, who isn't even fully explained that well in the comics itself. Like it's just a version of Deadpool who turned into Galactus at some point. Now, I don't know how true that is to him being in the movie because you kind of need to do a version of regular Galactus before you do a joke version of Galactus for casual audiences to get it. It was kind of like this during the first Deadpool movie. There were a lot of Easter eggs and references, but I think for the most part, if you didn't know the Deadpool character and you went into that first or even the second Deadpool movie, you could still get most of the jokes. Regular Galactus is supposed to be in the new Fantastic Four movie, but that's not going to release till after Deadpool 3. So I'm not expecting a bunch of Galactus stuff to happen until that new Fantastic Four movie. But there is a rumor that Antonio Banderas might wind up playing the character, which would be pretty interesting. The actual Deadpool core was created by the main 616 Deadpool. Even though Ryan Reynolds is from the Fox Marvel Universe, he is meant to be the main version of the character, and eventually he will travel to the 616 universe, the MCU basically. There'll be people arguing about that, like, oh, the 616 universe isn't meant to be the MCU, even though Kevin Feige said that multiple times. They'll probably clear a lot of that stuff up when Secret Wars happens and they do a bit of a soft reboot and change things, and they'll just start calling the main MCU 616 definitively. The reason why the team formed in the comics is because Deadpool was chosen by this cosmic being called the Contemplator to top another cosmic entity called the Awareness, who was consuming the entire multiverse. Does that not sound familiar? That sounds a lot like what Alioth was doing on the Loki series. The He Who Remains version of Kang said he could literally consume entire timelines, entire universes, and during that, he explained that he used it to destroy all the different timelines in the previous Kang multiverse war except for his own to get rid of all the different Kang variants. Then he set it to the Void Planet to just consume anything the TVA would send there and prune, basically like a galactic trash compactor for anything that might cause a Nexus event. So because the TVA is so important during Deadpool 3, it seems like Deadpool and Wolverine get pruned at some point by them, sent to the Void Planet. Most of the footage we've seen of the two of them is fighting each other to a standstill because they both have healing factors, so the fight just goes on and on and on, in front of the remains of the 20th Century Fox logo, which would have also been pruned in some other universe. That's meant to be more of a meta joke about Disney buying Fox and rendering a lot of the old Fox stuff obsolete, so to speak, even though that's not exactly what's happening in present day. Like Kevin Feige is recasting a lot of the X-Men, a lot of the Fox Marvel characters, like Fantastic Four characters. But he's bringing a lot of them back to cameo during Deadpool 3 and then eventually Secret Wars to give them one last big hurrah and basically just say that they all come from different universes. So in the main 616 universe, he'll recast versions, but the other versions will still exist in other universes. The other thing a lot of you have realized too, that we don't know when this is actually happening in the timeline, if Deadpool 3 happens before Loki Season 1 or like after Loki Season 2. Because in the new rebooted timeline, there's like a brand new version of Kang that reigns over the TVA, like things have completely changed, so there might not be a version of Alioth on the Void Planet when they get stuck there. The very first version of the Deadpool core team was main Deadpool, Headpool, Lady Deadpool, Dogpool, and Kidpool. And it seems like since they're supposedly doing Kidpool in multiple variants of Deadpool, that's why I think everyone thinks that they're doing Deadpool core. It'll be a little bit like them forming in the comics, where in the movie, Ryan Reynolds just pulls a bunch of versions of Deadpool together to team up. And it's also a bit like the joke in Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, where there were a bunch of versions of Scott Lang. They even had the bit about the regular Scott Lang who never left his job at Baskin-Robbins and never became Ant-Man. Supposedly they're going to do something similar in the Deadpool 3 movie, where one of the versions of Deadpool is just like a totally regular Ryan Reynolds wearing a Wrexham AFC jersey. Maybe they'll just say that version of Deadpool is just like real-life Ryan Reynolds and get super meta with it. Like he's married to a version of Blake Lively, he also has a couple daughters like Ryan Reynolds does in real life. The whole thing with Wrexham AFC is if you haven't been keeping up with Ryan Reynolds in real life, he's been super busy outside of making movies the past couple years. He bought a ton of businesses. They're all doing gangbusters. Like, he is an amazing pitchman. Most people know him from all of his gin ads or his cell phone business, Mint Mobile, but one of the businesses that he bought the past couple of years was the Wrexham Football Club with Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny, and the two of them spent the last couple years turning the club around, and now they're doing amazing. That's why you see him at the Wrexham games all the time. They also made a documentary TV show about it called Welcome to Wrexham, so it makes sense that he tried to find a way to get Wrexham into Deadpool 3 somehow. I don't know if they're actually doing Lady Deadpool, Dogpool, or Headpool, but it makes sense that they would just have a bunch of background Deadpool, so there could be a ton of different versions from the comics. The only one I think we know for sure is a version of Kidpool. A good example of that would be the clip that Ryan Reynolds posted of his younger co-star doing a Deadpool monologue a couple years ago. This is meant to be one of the monologues from Deadpool 2.
Wolverine. First, he rides my coattails with the R rating. Then, the hairy mother ups the ante by dying. What a... Well, guess what, Wolverine? I'm dying in this one, too. To understand why I took a cat nap on 1,200 gallons of high-test fuel, and then he jumps behind the counter.
So imagine a version of that, but with him wearing a Deadpool suit and mask. In the comics, Kidpool was meant to be from a universe where a child version of Wade Wilson joined Professor X's mutant school, but it was called Xavier's Orphanage for Troubled Boys. They had a similar joke to that in the first Deadpool movie with the bar where he and the other mercenaries hung out. There were also reports that Emma Corrin would be the main villain of the movie as part of the larger 838 universe plot. Now it seems like she's actually playing Cassandra Nova, who is the evil twin of Professor X. That's the super deep cut for the X-Men comics and for the recent Deadpool movies. During Deadpool 2, one of the main villains was Juggernaut, Professor X's brother, so it's just like another member of Professor X's family. Cassandra Nova has a really crazy backstory, so I'll explain her. She's a relatively newer character from the recent New X-Men run in the early 2000s. That was Grant Morrison's run, so no surprise Deadpool want to borrow from one of the comic book masters. It's a great run if you haven't read it. They even borrowed a little bit from that run for X-Men Dark Phoenix. The costumes that the X-Men team is wearing during that are from that New X-Men run. Her full name, though, is Cassandra Nova Xavier because Charles Xavier. And as you would expect from Grant Morrison, her backstory is totally nuts. Like, how did Professor X have a twin that we just learned about in the 2000s? He explained that because Professor X was born so powerful, his genetic potential was so great, when he was in his mother's womb growing, it caused the creation of a fraternal twin to form from the living embodiment of Professor X's anti-self, like this cosmic form that took shape because he was so powerful. They explained that the Shi'ar have this concept saying that each person has an opposite or an anti-form of themselves that exists cosmically out there in the universe, but usually it's just this formless cosmic energy that never takes shape, especially for people who aren't that powerful, like normal humans. But because Professor X was so powerful, even in his mother's womb, his anti-self was able to take form, sort of like latch onto him and use that to take form and become his fraternal twin. Later taking the name Cassandra Nova Xavier. Now, Emma Corrin doesn't look anything like Patrick Stewart, even younger Patrick Stewart, but I think they'll just kind of wave their hands at that. When they were growing in the womb, Professor X was so powerful that he unconsciously became aware of her, his evil anti-self, and tried to kill her with his mutant powers, like kill his twin in the womb. The event was so crazy, it caused his mother to suffer a miscarriage when she gave birth to both of them, and they believe that only Professor X survived the birth. But Cassandra Nova, having powers equal to that of Professor X, was able to survive as a lump of cells hiding in the walls of the building. Yes, this is right, Grant Morrison actually wrote this. slowly creating a body for herself over decades until eventually she was able to emerge looking just like Professor X, but super evil, super pissed off, and looking for revenge against him. They'll be working on the movie for a while, so I'll do more Deadpool videos when we learn more about what's going on and we get more footage. Let me know if you have any questions about the characters or any bonus video requests. There'll be some Easter eggs and crossover references happening during Loki Season 2, but I'm not expecting to see Deadpool show up during the Loki Season 2 episodes or Loki to show up during Deadpool 3. Like, there's already so many characters in Deadpool 3, so we'll see about that. Loki Season 2 starts in October, right after the Ahsoka episodes finish. I'm doing episode videos for both of those series, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss those. Click here for my Ahsoka Episode 4 video, and click here to learn about all the Deadpool 3 cameos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe and maximum effort.